As we are enjoying the wonderful fresh fruits and vegetables this summer, some industrious citizens are preserving the produce for later enjoyment this winter. Extension agent Candy Underwood explains the canning process and how you can get started.
Well, Cooperative Extension is known for canning. Most of the classes that we offer are during the summer months. Normally they start from May to August. The canning classes that we have offered were pressure canning, and we do water bath canning. We have canned green beans. People will bring in their green beans, and we would kind of gather those together as a group. So we've canned green beans as well as peaches, and we've done even strawberry jam. Canning has been around for a long, long time. It basically increased during the World Wars and the Great Depression. That's when home canning just started to rise. A lot of these small towns put together community canning centers, and what they did was had a large group of people come in to work together to make large quantities of food during that time. They even had instructors come in. They would have all the equipment there for them, and even the supplies that they would need in order for that town to produce that food for that town and those people living in that town. And just to kind of tell you a story, my dad grew up on a farm, and he would tell us stories of how it was for them growing up. And they basically, in those days, if you were on a farm, you produced everything that you ate. They had chickens that was there, for eating the bird, as well as the eggs. They had hogs, and I can remember as a young child them having hog killings. And my grandmother would have a smokehouse, and she would hang that meat in that smokehouse. And they had a garden, and my grandmother either canned or freezed everything that they grew. Now, it's changed from that time. From the 60s and the 70s, canning went down. Commercially canned food was cheaper for people, frozen vegetables were cheaper for people, and women were going back to work. So it was just easier for them to go to the grocery store and buy those foods. But now people are getting back into that where they want to know what's in their food. I want to grow my own food, I want to can my own food. So now people are calling the office wanting to know, how can I can my vegetables? How can I can my fruits and so forth? There was always a saying, if you can put it in a jar, it can be canned. Basically, you can put fruits in a jar, any type of fruit, and normally a fruit or your tomatoes, any kind of jam product, or pickles can be put in a water bath canner. Now your vegetables or any type of meat, you can seafood, pork, chicken, beef, any of those products have to be put in a pressure canner. I get lots of calls where people say, well, my mama put green beans in a water bath canner. Well, you were very lucky not to get sick due to botulism. Botulism is very deadly. And those low acid foods, which go in this canner, that's those vegetables and meats, have to go in these because it's a low acid food. And this canner is the only thing that's going to get the pressure up or the temperature up high enough to kill botulism or any other kind of microorganism that can get in that food. And this reaches up to 240 degrees, whereas this pot only reaches up to 212 degrees. And when you can, you have to have a certain type of jar. You cannot use a mayonnaise jar. These jars are made to heat up to a certain temperature. They can go in this jar or canner, and they can go in this canner. You have to have special types of lids. This is a two-piece lid. This is the ring, and this is the actual lid. This part you do not reuse, but you can always reuse your jars and your rings. Of course, if your jars start to get, nicks around the edges, you'll need to just, throw those away. Or when your rings start to get a little rusty, you need to throw those away. But start out simple, and I encourage you to follow a recipe that's research-based. Lots of times people call in wanting to tweak their recipes, and they're not tested. And I've actually brought some resources that are wonderful. This is like my Bible for canning when people call. It's with the Extension office out of Georgia, and it's so easy to preserve, and it's going to have recipes in there for you to follow. And this is just the ball book, and they also have recipes. And then this is the USDA Complete Guide to Home Canning, and you can actually find this online, so you really don't have to purchase the book, but you need to follow the recipe exactly as it states. They're going to tell you if you can use pint jars. They're going to tell you if you can use quart jars. So follow the recipe. Other items that you may need during your canning process, this is just a funnel. So when you start putting your product into your jar, it just kind of keeps it neater. You're not running over the sides of the jar. So that helps with that process. And when you get started in canning, let's say for instance we are going to make a batch of strawberry jam. What I normally do is I fill this pot up, and it'll tell you this in your instructions, with water. And I heat that to a warm simmer, and I put my jars in there. I clean the jars before I put them in there, and you can do that in the dishwasher or you can do it by hand. Either way's fine. But you'll put your jars in there and just keep them nice and warm while you're getting your strawberry jam together. And normally you're cooking that in another pot. If you'd like to learn more about canning, the Cooperative Extension Office is located at the Charlie Rose Agro Expo. You can call me if you'd like. My number directly is 910-321-6869, and I will be glad to help you with any question you may have in regards to canning, or any other thing that you may have a question. If you'd like to sign up for any of the classes, feel free to call, or if you have any questions, just feel free to call.